Okay, so now what we've done, we've started looking at time series. So just important, I've noticed a few times, time series, we must put a time code in. So remember, it has to be numerical. So if you're doing months of the year, you're going to have to call month 1 and month December 12. So make sure you're doing that. So now we've got the time series up. We often like to do, and we've noticed sometimes we might see some seasonality happening. But there may be an overall upward trend. So what we like to do when we see things like that is we like to do some smoothing techniques. And there's different types of smoothing techniques. And we smooth it off because we understand, right, it's going to peak, say we're talking about jumper sales for a shop. We know it's going to peak in winter because it's winter time, but we want to say overall what's happening in this shop. Are the sales increasing, and what is the increase? What is the actual increase that's happening over the years? So we'll use these smoothing techniques. So we're doing the first one today is we're going to use a mean smoothing. So remember that mean is an average, that you add all up, and you divide by how many you have to divide by. So they can give you lots of different numbered mean smoothing. So we could get odd number smoothing, which means we could say do a 3 mean smoothing, a 5 mean, 7. I've even seen a 9 in the exam. So they're going crazy. They're just picking huge numbers. All right, so with a 3 mean smoothing, what you do is you take the three first pieces of data, your 3 entries, you add them together and you divide by 3, and then that becomes your first smoothed value. So it would be, say this was, for example, you had January, February, and March, and we said it was the 3 numbers, say it was the jumper sales. So I said there might have been 2, 5, and 8. So if we were doing a 3 mean smoothing, say our data's going to keep going, we would add those up and we'd divide by 3 and we'd get a answer of whatever that is. And that would be the first smoothed value. And we would put it on February because that's the first set of 3. That's the middle of the first set of 3. So then obviously when we have 5 mean, we add up 5 and divide by 5. When we have 7, we add up 7 and so on. So we'll do some examples. So here is an example of what you can get. They're not going to make you do the whole set of data. You'll get asked to do individual ones. So the table below gives the temperature recorded at a weather station at 9 a.m. each day of the week. Now, the first question, it says, calculate the 3 mean smoothing for Tuesday. So what you do is you go to Tuesday. When you have 3 mean, you obviously need Tuesday. And because you need 3 numbers, you choose 1 below it and 1 above it. So there's the 3 mean. So the way I'm going to find it is I'm going to add Monday, add Tuesday, and add Wednesday, and I'll divide by 3. So that would be the 18.1 plus 24.8 plus 26.4, and divide by 3, we're going to get 23.1. So that would be your smoothed value for Tuesday. Okay, 3 mean smoothing for Tuesday. Okay, in the next question, in B, it asks for 5 mean smoothing for Thursday. So I go to Thursday and I've got to pick Thursday. Now I want 5 numbers around Thursday. So I'm going to pick 2 before it and 2 after it. So for 5 mean, I'm going to have Tuesday plus Wednesday plus Thursday plus Friday, plus Saturday, and then I would divide by 5. So if you add all those numbers up, So it'd be 24.8 plus 26.4 plus 13.9 plus 12.7 plus 14.2 divide by 5, and we end up with 18.4. So that would be Thursday's 5 mean smoothing value. Okay? So that's how you do that. If you do 7, if you had 7, you pick your day, and how many before and how many after would you do if you had 7? Yeah, 3 before, 3 after. If I did 9, how many are we going to do? 4 and 4. So remember, at the moment we're just doing odd. There's a different technique for even. So when someone said, if we asked, what if I asked you for the 5 mean smoothing for Saturday, you can't do it unless you had more data. So what happens is they won't. If they do, and they'll say how many, they might say, how many could you possibly do for this 5 mean? And you can only do 3 values. So that's a question they do ask. You do lose some, and so it's impossible, or you can only do so many. All right. Okay, so I was just showing you. Here's the number. Here is a set of data. So say they gave you the lists like this. So remember, I'm now saying if you're doing it on your calculator, you have to create a time code. Okay. Oops, sorry. And so I would call January 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8, 9, 10, 11, 12. Okay? So if you're going to sketch this in your time series in your calculator, that's what I'd do. I'd have to do a time code and births, and then here I've shown you how I would create that. Okay, so this, if you have to smooth the data, the whole set, you can see next to it, they've shown you. So say, for example, if I was doing the 3 mean for February, I've taken the 3 numbers around it and divided by 3, and there you go. So what I want you to write here is I want you to take note. When you had 3 mean smoothing, we lost one data at each end, didn't we? One data point at each end. Can you see what I'm talking about? So January lost that one, and we lost December. What about when we have the 5 mean smoothing? 5 mean, how many did we lose? Yeah, each end, didn't we? So we lost 2. You just need to take note of that because there is questions. Lost 2 data each end. They will, and if I asked you, if we did a 7 mean, how many would I lose? 3, yeah, I'm going to lose 3 each way. So they ask that, they test you on that, or they'll say how many smooth data values can you get, and you've got to be careful that you'll lose some. All right, I've just displayed it this way because sometimes they'll have your tables of your data going vertically. Before in our examples, we had our data going horizontally. So yeah, just if you want to make sure, just to make sure with this. So here's the graph of the smooth data. So the original data is in red, yeah? So these values here are the red line. When they did the 5 mean smoothing, so these values are the blue line. So can you see the raw data? We saw a massive influx in April, and then it drops off. But you can see when you're smoothing it, we can see the overall trend. With that 5 mean smoothing, we can see overall that the number of births are not really changing once you average it all out. It's sort of smoothing on. And so you might get asked to comment on things like that, but mainly you're asked to smooth an individual value. Okay, so when you have even numbers, so if you have to write underneath, so 2, 4, 6, etc., just so you're aware, even numbers, you will always have this, they will always say this centering step. So it's like an extra step, yeah, that you've got to do. And they will always ask for it. So with centering, it involves that you've got to do 2 chunks and then you add them together. So let's just do, for example, this one. This is 2 mean. So here's our Monday data. So we've got, see how we got Monday, Tuesday and Wednesday. So we're going to do 2 mean smoothing for our first set, say for Tuesday. So you can see you take 1 above and then the actual day. So we did that and we divide by 2 and we get an answer here. Then we have to take the next set where we take Tuesday and then the next one after it and we get this answer. So then what we do, so that's we're doing 2 mean smoothing. The centering step is where you add those answers. So can you see that was your blue answer, that was your green answer, and you always, the centering will be divide by 2. So the first step will depend on what number mean smoothing you're doing, whether you're doing a 2, 4, 6. The centering step will always divide by 2, okay? So we'll give it a bit of a practice in a minute. Okay, so let's have a look at this example. So it says calculate the 2 mean smoothing for Tuesday. So what I like to do is I go to Tuesday and I need 2. So I go, one option is I've got to go before, and then I like to just make sure, and I'll do my second option, I highlight it like that. All right, so my first option will have to be Monday plus Tuesday and divide by 2. So those actual values are 18.1 plus 24.8. I'd divide it by 2 and I'd get an answer of 21.45. Then I have to do the second option where we do Tuesday and 1 day above. Sorry, that was divided by 2. Wednesday. And we divide by 2, which is 24.8 plus 26.4 divided by 2, and we end up with 25.6. So then the next thing, we have to add those 2. This is the centering part. So 21.45 plus 25.6 divide by 2, and we get 23.525. So that would be the smooth value for 2 mean. This is the 2 mean smoothing for Tuesday. Okay, so it's a lot of work. So just so you have an example of if you've given your list of data like this, and you have to do it, the way you can do it is, all right, I'm going to smooth my data values. So I take the first 2, so 10 plus 12 divided by 2, and that would give me 11. Then you take your next 2, so it'd be 12 plus 6 divided by 2, that would equal 9. And then obviously the centering part is when we add those, 11 plus 9 divided by 2. So our first smooth data would be 10, and we would say it's on February. So we notice, and if you just kept on going, so if you did the next one, so if I did the 6 plus 5 divided by 2 equals 5.5, then we would add those 2 together and divide by 2, and we get 7.25. That would be March's smoothed value. So with the 2 mean, how many are we losing? We're going to lose 1 at each end, aren't we? So with 2 mean smoothing, let's write that. We're losing 1 at the start, 1 data point each end. Okay? Just so you can see that. All right. So that would be if you kept on going the whole table. So, but what about if I say, all right, what about if I just said, find this 2 mean smooth value with centering for October. So what you do is, you know, you've got to go 1 above it. So 9 plus 10 divided by 2, and you get 9.5, and then you take 1 below it. so 10 plus 8 divided by 2, which equals 9. And then we do the centering, which we add those two together, and we get an answer of 9.25. That would be for October. Okay, so I'm just putting it there because sometimes data's written vertically, sometimes it's horizontally. So you've got both options, you know what to do. We obviously can go higher in our even numbers of 4 and 6. So what I'm going to show you is here, let's do the 4 and the 6 so you can get an idea. So it's asking me to calculate the 4 mean smoothing for Thursday. So we go to Thursday. Sorry, I'll do it in the blue. So we go to Thursday. So for 4 mean smoothing, one option is I'm going to go 2 below it and 1 above it. All right, so it will be Tuesday plus Wednesday plus Thursday plus Friday, and I'll divide by 4. And then the other option is I'm going to go just 1 below it and 2 above it.
Can you pick whichever one?
No, you have to do both. We've got to do both options because we're on an even number. So the next option is going to be Wednesday plus Thursday plus Friday plus Saturday, and we divide by 4 and we'll get an answer. So I'll write the numbers in there so you can refer to it. Okay, so we've put those in and we got the first 4 produced a mean of 19.45 and the second 4 goes 16.8. So then we've got to add the centering step. So remember, the centering is always just divide by 2. So you add your 2 answers. So that's where the centering it's always divide by 2, what I was speaking about before. So there's the smooth value for Thursday for 4 mean. Okay, so I'm going to write out the 6 mean. I'll do it in green here. And it says for Thursday as well. So I'm going to, 6 mean would be one option. I'm going to go 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6. So one option is I'll go 3 before it, 2 after it, and then the second option, I'm only going to go 2 before it and 3 after it. Does that make sense? Okay, so you can see for the 6 I've added one option was 3 days before and 2 days after. That was this first one here, sorry. And then the next one was the 2 days before and the 3 days after. So we get those two values, then we add them together and we divide by 2. So this was the 6 mean value. So as I said, the centering part is always divide by 2. Okay, so here is just an example of a 4 mean using a vertical display. So once again, just be really careful if you're entering a time series in a scatter plot. We'd have to change this to a time code, and we might call it month 1, month 2, month 3, and so on. Now, also just want you to notice when we did 4 mean smoothing with centering, so this first centered value becomes on March. So you can see we actually lose the first 2 and we've lost the last 2. Okay, so when we do 4 mean, we lose the first 2 and the last 2. Okay, so data points. So just be careful of that. They do ask questions on that. Okay, so this is an exam question and it is repeating what we've done, but I just wanted to show you an example of an exam question with it. So they've said the table below shows the rainfall for 2019 in millimetres recorded at a weather station. The long-term seasonal indices for each month is also given. All right, so that we're going to do with later. But at the moment, the first question is the 6 mean smooth value for August. So for August, So we've got 6 mean. So one option is going to be 3 below it and 2 above it. And our other option will be just 2 below it and 3 above it. Okay, so let's go and work them out. Okay, so I've just added those 6 numbers up. The first set of 6, which was in purple, and then the second set of 6, which was in the blue. And then now we've done that, we need to do the centering part. So that's when we add those 2 numbers, those 2 averages together, and we divide by 2. And we end up with an answer of 81.325. So it's closest to this 81.3.